class today, we're going to expand on business structures. Okay, we've been talking about businesses. We touched a little bit about the different kinds of businesses that exist, primary, secondary, tertiary, but legally, there are different business structures. This is legally, when I say legally, they are recognized by government, they're registered, and this is what they say they can be. First of all, we've got sole proprietorship, also known as a sole trader business. This is a business that is owned by one person. Now, when someone owns a business all by themselves, what's so good about it? They get all the profits. It's very easy to form. Now, it's also important to remember that a sole proprietorship business is a small business. So, for example, market vendors, people who sell cakes from home, tailors, those are good examples of sole traders. Now, yes, they get all the profits. They're able to make decisions fast because they're the only ones that have to make the decision. On the flip side, there are some disadvantages. They have a lot of workload because many of the sole traders, they are owners and workers at the same time. So they make their own product, which they sell. So they have a lot of workload. Also, when the business does not make profits, meaning they make losses, then they have to be the only one that pays it up all by themselves. Good examples that we have here for sole traders, Fiona Matutu, who makes cakes. We've got Marilyn in Tikavika, who does the sewing. We've got Christiana, another baker, and her sweets. Shantai Ito, who makes sweets again. Tailors, we've got Georgina Varu, who is the owner of Inemoana. So these are good examples of sole traders. Next up, still a small business, is what we call a partnership. Now, a partnership, for some, in some respects, they say 2 to 25 partners. Now, in a partnership, the owners are called partners. Okay? So, in a partnership, for us, we know that they need a minimum of 2 people. Now, for 2 people, right, what's good about it? They get more capital. Now, in a sole trader, one person giving 10,000 all by themselves to start the business. But in a partnership, imagine if there were 3 people and they brought 5,000 each, that's 15,000, which is much more. So they get more capital. They can also share the workload. One works on a Monday, one works on a Tuesday, one works on a Thursday. They all come together on the Thursday and Friday. So the workload is shared. Also, when they make losses, they also share it. Whereas in the sole trader, that person will have to pay the $2,000 debt all by themselves. In a partnership, that $2,000 is split between 3 people. But what's bad about it? In a partnership, because you're working with people, you are bound to have conflicts and disagreements. Also, in a sole trader, you made $5,000 profit, that belongs to you. But in a partnership, that $5,000 will now be split 3 ways. So that's another disadvantage. But the biggest disadvantage for a sole trader and a partnership is what we call unlimited liability. Unlimited liability is where if the business makes a loss, they have to pay it up. They'll take business assets and potentially, if it's not enough, they will come and take your business assets as well. So that's the biggest disadvantage of a sole trader and a partnership business. Then we move on to bigger businesses. Now, corporation, or as we've learned, public company. Then we also have limited liability company, which is a private company. Okay? So companies is a larger business, and usually they need a lot of money to start that business. Now, if I have to say examples of companies, then CITC, Prime Foods, Land Holdings, Edgewater Resort, Pacific Resort, Air New Zealand. These are all examples of companies that are very, very big. Now, what is the difference between a public company and a private company? A public company, usually you need a minimum of 7 shareholders. For a company, the owners are called shareholders. So, public company, minimum of 7, and actually maximum of any number. Private company, They have between 2 to 25 partners. It's very private if you take it by the name. When I say private, that means that they offer ownership to people that they know, usually within the family, or they could extend it to friends. For example, CITC is owned by Trevor Clark and his children. Prime Foods is owned by the Forsyth family, together with their wife. Land Holdings, Bill Doherty, right? He owns it with a local partner. That's it, right? So that's a private company. And private companies, they are not required by law to make public their annual reports. What that means is you don't know how much money they'll make because it's not public records. For public companies or corporations, it's different. They have to publish their annual reports. Good example is Air New Zealand. So you can actually tell how much Air New Zealand made in the past year. All you have to do is go onto their website, go onto the Investor Center, download their annual report, and you can tell how much money they've made. Other examples of public companies, now in a Pacific context, Sky Pacific, I believe. We've got RB Patel in Fiji, Amalgamated Telecom Holdings, which owns Vodafone. For those of us here in the Cook Islands, we know of KFC, which is owned by a restaurant brand, Michael Hill Jewelers, The Warehouse, right? These are all examples of public companies. Now, what's good about a company? The main advantage of the company is that they have limited liability. When I say limited liability, that is that it's very different from those two, sole trader and partnership. In a limited liability situation, if they ever get into a debt, the debts of the business can only be paid from business assets only. They cannot touch the owners or the shareholders' private assets. That is not touchable. It's different from a sole trader and partnership. If they get a debt, they take business, they take personal. In a company, they only take business assets to pay the debts. Okay, now what else is good? They make heaps of profit. Now, between private and public companies are able to generate more capital because what they do is they offer shares to many people who have the money to do so. They have products that are very well known, but what's bad about it? Oh, not bad, but what's the disadvantage is that it's very expensive to run. Imagine Air New Zealand, the flights, the fuel, the pilots, the airports, etc. The food on the plane, the cleaning of the plane, the maintenance of the plane, all of those expenses are quite high. So that's why for companies, they make lots of money, but they also have very high expenditure. So after this video, you will get the link to be able to complete activity sheets, okay? You will have another video to watch, and based on it, you will answer the questions, and the link is provided for you to do. Now remember one thing, it's very important to understand there is a difference between these two, okay? That sole trader and partnerships, these are small businesses. These two are bigger businesses. Now, there are other types of businesses that exist, like franchises, right? A franchise is a company that is allowing others to use their name, their product, their branding anywhere in the world. And the one thing they must do is to maintain it. For example, McDonald's. If you eat a McDonald's in Auckland, New Zealand, if you eat, let's say if you eat another burger in San Francisco, you eat the same burger in Suva, Fiji, they taste the same. That's what a franchise is. Other examples of franchises are Pizza Hut, you have Wishbone, you have Taco Bell. These are all franchises. So if someone wants to own that, they can apply for it. They get to use their branding and everything. Now, Once you have done this, all right, once you have done your activity, make sure to send me a messenger message to tell me that you're done so that I can check. Thank you very much.